What's up, people of the world, and welcome to this League of Legends patch note rundown for the patch 3.15. I'm going to be making this a too long did not read, which means I'll be trying to make this quick video, 10 to 15 minutes maximum, just really generally run down all the changes and make sure that you guys don't have to waste your time reading all of this stuff. I read that for you, and I give you guys a general idea of how that's going to impact the game once it comes live. Tomorrow, let's jump right into it right now. Yasuo is going to be released on the live server. Amazing champion. If you haven't seen my commentary for him, go check it out. I played him in the mid lane on the PBE server. He's really strong. And so, yeah, you should definitely go try him out. That's going to be a really good addition. I feel like he's going to be banned in competitive play. And, well, he's not going to come in competitive play right now, but he's going to be banned in solo queue for sure. A diamond one, that's for sure. Now, Ahri is getting a bit of a buff, nothing really major, just a bit more base mana, up from 230, she's going 250, and a bit more mana regen, so that she can go through the laning phase a bit more easily, spam more spells and stuff like that. So really nothing major. Okay, so Fiddlesticks and Rammus are both getting a nerf to their CC. So Rammus's taunt and Fiddlestick's fear, they're both getting nerfed to 2.25 seconds instead of 3 seconds at their maximum rank. So it's a 0.75 second nerf to both of these. And the reason why, I think, is because Riot doesn't think this mechanic, like a huge CC, is very interesting and doesn't allow for a lot of counterplay. I do believe that. I do feel like it's kind of not fun to play against. You know, it's really frustrating to play against Rammus or Fiddlesticks because when you get taunted or feared for 3 seconds, you literally cannot do anything until you die. And so I think reducing that to 2.25 will allow for a bit more counterplay and maybe give people a better chance at reacting to those CC. You know, on top of having, for example, Mercury's Treads and stuff like that to reduce CC. But to kind of counterplay that, they're also going to reduce their mana cost of their ultimates. Both of them are going to be 100 mana, I believe. Yeah, 100 mana instead of whatever they were before, which were like 150, 200, whatever. Janna is also getting her ultimate mana cost reduced, and a bunch of other champions too. So Lulu as well is getting her ultimate mana cost reduced. Soraka is actually not Soraka. Sivir is getting her ultimate mana cost actually is going up instead of down. Lee Sin, a bit of a change to Lee Sin. It doesn't seem like much at first, but if you are a really good Lee Sin, you're going to know that this is the kind of stuff that kind of nerfs a lot more than you might think it does. So the shield from Safeguard, your W, will no longer shield minions or wards. So this is a big nerf for the laning phase, because Lee Sins that were good would put lane dominance by making you miss last hits by shielding to their minions when you were about to last hit them. Like, really good Lee Sins do this in Diamond 1. I mean, it's even gold or platinum or whatever silver players can do this if you just think about it. It's pretty easy, and it was a good mechanic, but they're removing that completely from the game. Also, you will no longer make wards invulnerable when you dash to them or shield them. So you can no longer shield them before a player tries to kill it. Lucian is receiving a little nerf here to his Q, so basically just reducing the damage and the range. That's it. Lulu is getting a buff, really nice, some damage buff on her Pixie, or Pix, whatever you call it. More shield earlier on at early ranks. It's going to be the same at the maximum rank, but the earlier ranks of her E, more shield than before. And her ultimate, like I said, is going to get a reduced mana cost. Rammus is getting a few changes. Like I said, the taunt is changed, the ultimate, same thing, mana cost reduced, and his W is no longer going to be, you can no longer deactivate it. So basically, you know, the thing that makes people take damage whenever they attack you, you can no longer deactivate it. It will go on cooldown automatically when you use the ability. I think it's a little buff to Rammus, because before you would like deactivate it so the cooldown goes a bit earlier, but then now it's going off right away, so it's definitely a big buff for that spell. Soraka, they're saying that they want to do a lot of changes to Soraka, though they're not talking about anything specific. In this batch, they're only going to give her an armor increase, which is, I mean, really nothing, and a movement speed increase from like 5 movement speed, which is really nothing. Taric is getting a little nerf here. I mean, we all know Taric right now is a terror in solo queue, and so I thought I think they realized that, and so they toned down the numbers on his W and his passive, meaning that he will no longer gain as much armor as he used to, so it'll be a little bit less tanky, and he will do a little bit less burst damage with his W. They're reducing the damage and the armor shred from it. So yeah, just a little nerf to Taric here. Numbers are toned down a little bit. All these are not really interesting except for Garen, who's actually no longer deals reduced damage to monsters. This means Garen will deal full damage with his judgment in the jungle to jungle creeps, which can really make Garen a viable jungler now. I really want to see it. I'm not a good jungler. I only play mid lane. But if you're a good jungler out there, I'd really like to know your opinion about this. And maybe some people try it out. Tell me what they think, because I think this is going to be maybe the beginning of Garen jungle. Pantheon is also one that's getting a little something that's interesting. His W stun can be cast on enemy minions and jungle monsters. Maybe allow him to jungle a bit better by stunning, the big golems or whatever. And there's a downside to this, which I feel like when you're in the laning phase, you might actually accidentally stun a minion instead of the champion that you're trying to stun by misclicking, which will definitely happen. I mean, there is the option of binding something so that you only attack a champion, but I mean, most people don't have that binded. So, but on the opposite side, you can also use it to escape. So you can now use the stun as an escape tool. For example, you run to minions, jump to minion with your stun, run away. Maybe that's a little buff, I feel like. Jungle items, now they're changing the Spectral Wraith and the Elder Lizard to no longer have the Bounty Hunter thing, which gave you 40 bonus gold on assists and legendary monsters, Dragon and Baron, and it gave you 10 gold on the big monsters in the jungle, like red buff, blue buff, wraiths, whatever. Now it has the conservation passive, which I believe, I'm not sure on this, but I believe the conservation passive is where you gain stacks over time whenever you kill a jungle minion. It gives you the amount of stacks as gold. So for example, you have 60 stacks, gives you 60 gold for killing the big wraith, the red buff, the blue buff, the big golem, whatever. So I think that's it. Makes sense. Trinkets. Now, interesting changes to the trinkets. And one that I'm not really happy with, but I'll tell you guys once we get there. So Sweeping Lens is getting a little buff here. They're not touching the Trinket Ward at all. So Sweeping Lens is getting a cooldown reduction of 60 seconds, which is quite nice. 60 seconds at the first level, which means the Sweeping Lens. Greater Lens is getting a 30 seconds cooldown reduction, which is quite nice. So it's a minute cooldown now. Makes for a lot of counterplays, and they're just reducing the duration of the True Sight duration when you pop Oracle's Lens, which makes sense because now it's 60 seconds instead of 90 seconds. Okay, so here's the change that I don't completely agree with. The changes to the Clairvoyance Trinket. The Clairvoyance Trinket right now, I feel like, and I mean, don't get mad at me for saying this, but I feel like it's completely useless. I don't want to go too in depth on this, but I really have my reasoning for saying this. And basically, the problem with the Clairvoyance Trinket right now is that it can only be used more effectively than, for example, a ward if you use it to scout an area where a ward just died. So it's very specific. For example, you want to scout Dragon because you think they're doing it. You want to scout your blue buff because you think the jungler is stealing it. You want to scout their blue buff to see if their jungler has done it already. Their red buff, stuff like that. The problem is, here are the two problems with this. The Clairvoyance now, why not just use a ward for that same purpose? First of all, the ward will give you vision at all times to that area, and then you can place it elsewhere whenever you want it. So, why not do that? The cooldown is 1 minute and 30, but most people cannot find optimal uses to the Clairvoyance Trinket every 1 minute and 30 seconds. What I mean by this is there is not an opportunity to scout a blue buff for a jungler, or scout the red buff, or scout a dragon, or scout a baron, which are probably like the only good uses of a Clairvoyance every 1 minute and 30 seconds. This leads to two things. Either A, you always keep your Clairvoyance trinket on off cooldown so that you can use it whenever you actually need it for a good use. Again, warding dragon, not warding, but check-in dragon, check-in blue buff, check-in all these things. So those are good uses that you cannot do with a ward, for example, at a range. Or, so either you keep it off cooldown for these opportunities, which don't happen every minute and 30 seconds, or you use it every time it comes off cooldown, and then you risk not having it when you actually need it. So this leads to the fact that it's a 1 minute and 30 seconds cooldown trinket, which will only be used, for example, every 3 minutes if someone wants to use it intelligently, or it'll be used every 1 minute and 30 seconds for most likely useless uses, which you could definitely do better with a ward. For example, like, oh, well, I got it off cooldown. Let's check that bush to see if there's a jungler there instead of just putting a ward there. You know, that's the kind of uses you do every 1 minute and 30 seconds if you actually want to use it every time. Compared to the other two trinkets, the ward trinket, you'd use it every time it comes off cooldown. You definitely want to put your ward off. And every time it comes off cooldown, you can use the sweeping lens to try to clear a ward. So they both have uses every time they come off cooldown, while the Clairvoyance trinket, you most likely want to keep it, even if it's off cooldown, for a better use to the actual thing. So here's my solution. You heard it first here, ladies and gentlemen. You should definitely have stacks on the Clairvoyance trinket. Hear me out. If you have stacks on the Clairvoyance trinket, it allows you to hold on to it without actually using it every 1 minute and 30 seconds to kind of optimize it. It allows you to keep it while not being punished, for keeping it. Because right now, for example, if you keep it for 1 minute and 30 seconds off cooldown, you could have used it 2 times, and then you go like, fuck, I should have used it 1 minute and 30 seconds ago for, whatever, just check a bush or something like that. But I didn't use it because I didn't know if I needed it in the next minute and 30 seconds. So basically now you're allowing people to stack the uses so they don't feel like they have to use it every minute and 30 seconds and be punished for it, right? Anyways, that is only my thought about it. The change, I didn't even talk about it. It reveals champions for 5 seconds if you see them with the Clairvoyance, which is, I mean, it's not a big deal. I really don't think people are going to pick this up at Diamond 1 level or in competitive play. Maybe one member of the team will pick this up after the laning phase. So once you hit level 9, because it has very specific uses, again, for checking Baron, checking bushes, checking blue buffs, and stuff like that. But only one member will have it probably after level 9, because you don't buy this at level 1 ever. It's like useless as fuck, level 1. Anyways, let's move on. There's not much to talk about. They're just nerfing a bit the Ancient Golem, Gold Flow. They're changing back the assist rewards. They made it so assists would grant more gold as time goes by, and they wanted to go back on this decision because they thought it would just make games snowball too easily. And super minions are now getting a buff, so it's a bit more. It gives you more incentive to actually get the inhibitors. Howling Abyss, probably the biggest change in the entire patch note 3.15. They're going to give you, listen to me, they're going to give you a freaking Poro snack. This is amazing. This is probably the biggest change. I'm really excited to see that. Go feed some Poros in the Howling Abyss. Really amazing change. I got nothing else to say. Let's move on. Masteries. Nothing big here, just reducing a bit of the damage here. And that's it. They're changing the icons on some of their spells, and we are done with the 3.15 patch notes. Hopefully this wasn't too long. I don't know how long this took me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the quick, too long didn't read, or too long did not want to read 3.15 patch notes and rundown. Hopefully this helped you understand how the game will change tomorrow when the patch comes live. And that's it. See you guys very soon for more commentaries, and if you enjoy the patch notes, make sure to like so I can do more of these. See you guys next time.